Calm down. The suffering's only just begun.
Hey there, Jam here, and happy October! Yeah, so by the time I'm recording this, it is November 1st. You are a liar, you didn't get this out before October, and I hope you die. It's been a pretty casual month for me so far, so I've been waiting for some really good horror releases. Haven't really gotten anything yet, so my original video plan that I'll still make but might not come out in October was a video based around the horror genre, at least in indie gaming, from how it went from actually creepy stuff to kind of more cutesy stuff for kids nowadays, with a few animations sprinkled in there. However, all of that has been completely sidetracked because of this one game, Mouthwashing. At first, I was completely turned off from the game because I didn't like the way I was seeing people portray one of the characters, Captain Curly. You've probably already seen him already, I mean he's in the thumbnail of this video. I really didn't enjoy how people were infantilizing his character just because he was disabled. I see it happening far too often with disabled characters in any sort of media, and it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. Get it? I also didn't like how people were making it out to seem that him and his abuser were in a relationship. I get it, shipping culture is gonna be shipping culture, but goodness gracious. I didn't let that deter me for once, and I watched the Let's Play. After that, I understood the hype. I really understood the hype. Mouthwashing is a phenomenal game, and this video isn't really an explanation, though I will include an explanation for anyone who needs a refresher. It's more for the people who want to hear about the theories based around the game and my own incessant rambles because I scoured the internet like a rat for anything I could find on mouthwashing content. I might be a little bit obsessed, but it's okay. So again, if you know completely nothing about the game, this isn't the video to start. Please watch an in-depth explanation, play the game, watch a Let's Play, and then come back here when you're done. Anyways, let's get started. The premise of the game is that a crew of 5 people get stuck in space. Their names are Jimmy, the captain's best friend and the character you play as for most of the game, Anya, the timid nurse, Swansea, the asshole mechanic, Daisuke, the young intern, and their captain, Captain Curly, who is severely disabled after trying to take down a spaceship with all of them in it. They don't have much rations left after the crash, so they went to go find more in their little storage room that they keep everything they've been transporting, only to find out the only thing they've been transporting all these years has been tons and tons of mouthwash. They only have an expectancy of making it another few months in space if the mouthwash doesn't take them out first. Besides that, Jimmy has become the de facto leader after Captain Curly's supposed betrayal. However, things just don't seem right. Jimmy's attitude is off, the crew seems wary in general, and things only get worse as everyone slowly falls apart, with Jimmy refusing to believe in this fate. He constantly reassures himself, thinking that he's doing the right thing for everyone and that everyone appreciates what he's been doing, but it's quite the opposite. He gets Daisuke killed by coaxing him into the vent that were highly dangerous by making it out to seem that he'll be a hero if he goes in. He murders Swansea after he finally took action against Jimmy, having one final conversation with him before he pulls the trigger, and he made Anya commit suicide. He got her pregnant early in the game, and by the time she died, she was 5 months along. There was no hope left for her and she knew it. So in the end, his incompetence led to the death of everyone on board, except for Captain Curly, who was able to get into the last stasis pod unwillingly, which allows him to be in a coma for 20 years. But of course, we don't know if he ends up living or he just dies in space. I wouldn't even say this is a bittersweet ending. Everyone and everything is just kind of fucked. The Pony Express sucks, Jimmy sucks, even Curly sucks, and I will explain why. By the way, that's the story with everything in chronological order. When playing the game, the story is non-linear, so prepare for a lot of this happening the entire time. God, I love non-linear storytelling. Of course, since I've now explained it to you, it's pretty obvious that Jimmy was the villain, right? Well, actually no. The game is extremely slow with telling us that Jimmy was the culprit all along, and since the game is from Jimmy's perspective, even after we find out, he tries coming off as sympathetic. His narration almost genuine if you were really taking everything said to heart, especially with how he tries driving home his sentiment about wanting to take responsibility. It really does seem like he was trying his best. However, that's what he wants. He wants to come off as sympathetic, but in truth, he is scared and envious. Envies Curly for being the captain that everyone loves and admires, and he's scared of Anya because of what her pregnancy means for him. Not even her, but honestly, I think his biggest offense is the fact that he's a brony. It might be a rapist. If you're confused on any of that, I'll explain. For a brony thing, it was admitted in-game, so there's nothing much to say there. He has a sexual attraction towards horses. Cartoon horses, I will admit, so it's not completely zoophilia, but still pretty odd. There is some symbolism behind that, but I wouldn't be able to tell you much on it. The most I got from it is that horses run really fast and are always trying to get to their destination. Kind of like how he was trying to run away from his responsibilities. Also, the pony that he talked to late game, after he went through that really bizarre cutscene with the centipede horse baby thing, I don't even know, just this thing. It was supposed to be a representation of his child, calling him things like old man and implying something horrible that I'll get to in a second, and it does have to do with the other thing I said. But that's just me. I was probably looking into it a bit too hard, but if you don't think so or have another theory on it, please tell me in the comments. I will be looking and replying to everything. Anyways, the other thing, the rape thing, is way more subtle, and you probably wouldn't have been able to catch it unless you were looking into it as much as me or someone told you. Jimmy more than likely took advantage of Anya. Think about it. Anya was afraid of him the entire game. The only person she really talked to on board and confided in was Captain Curly, who she seemed more relaxed to be around in general. The minute Jimmy took control was when she started being so extremely shy and nervous. People think that's just her character archetype, but I beg to differ. Jimmy took something from her that's irreplaceable in private, her dignity, her body, and now she's trapped on space with him for God knows how long. Easy to crack in a situation like that. I mean, who wouldn't? She deserves so much better. After all, she was the catalyst for all the events on the ship. As unfortunate as it is, her becoming pregnant sent Jimmy into a frenzy, making him trying to kill everyone including himself, instead of taking responsibility. And her death cementing that there really was no hope coming and no hope left for any of them. Also, you might think that with how much Jimmy wants to take responsibility, he wants to take responsibility for Anya and the child, right? Wrong. If anything, the only thing that Jimmy cares about is the baby because of what it means for him. He can care less for the baby as an actual person, a living human being. He could care less for Anya, the woman he's forcing the baby on, and he doesn't humanize the baby. He envisions it as almost a monster coming to take his life. Rest in peace, Anya. Burn in hell, Jimmy. Anywho, the other two characters I want to get to before talking about Captain Curly is Swansea and Daisuke. Their dynamic is great. I always love a good, grumpy older character paired with a younger, fun sidekick. At least it was fun until Swansea had to kill Daisuke with his own hands. You can tell that from the way he talks about him, he never hated Daisuke. His bubbly personality and his ability to be so extremely happy without having to depend on anything like alcohol, like Swansea had to do, is the reason why he almost envy him. Swansea was 15 years sober before the event of the crash. Once everyone found out the only thing they had left was mouthwash, he ended his sobriety. That was him mentally checking out. He was done. But he still tried his best to be there for everyone. After all, he actually did talk to Anya before she died and found out what Jimmy did and just generally how she feels about him. She doesn't feel safe around Jimmy, and she made that very clear to Captain Curly, who didn't take her seriously because Jimmy was his best friend. But since Swansea holds no loyalty to Jimmy, he probably would have done something if he knew sooner. However, he didn't, and once he did, it was already too late and she had committed suicide. It just sucks, man. I wish Swansea was actually able to take Jimmy out. It would have not changed a single thing because everyone would have died anyways, but at the very least, it would have mean that he got repercussions for his actions instead of taking it the easy way out and being able to kill himself after he believed that he did the right thing. But what was his right thing? Well, saving Captain Curly. I feel bad for Curly, but I'm also extremely angry at him like I am Jimmy. I feel bad because of course what he went through wasn't fun. I mean, who would want to be betrayed by their best friend, become completely disabled minus sight and hearing, and having to watch everything you worked for unravel myself with you, the only survivor. That is a terrifying fate. I absolutely hate body horror. It makes my skin crawl thinking about not being able to control your own body anymore. I think the fact that Captain Curly was able to live in the end was the worst thing that could have possibly happened, because now it means that if he was saved, he has to live the rest of his life like this, and his life expectancy is way short now anyways. But if he doesn't get back to Earth, then he's gonna wake up some 20 years later stuck in a pod until he eventually starves to death. Whatever happens, rest in peace, Captain Curly. You will never be the same. But besides his physical state, there's not much I can feel bad about. He is the reason this all happened in the first place. He had the chance to stop Jimmy, but he allowed Jimmy to manipulate him into thinking that this was all his fault, allowing Jimmy's jealousy to eat him up inside until it was too late. And Anya, who told him about what Jimmy has done to her and that she feels so unsafe to the point that she has to hide weapons around the ship so that way Jimmy can't hurt her or anyone else, and he doesn't do anything. It's just like, what were you thinking? I feel like that's probably the reason why he laughed near the end. You know that little giggle that he did? I'm gonna play the clip, but you know, this one.
What are you laughing at?
I feel like he laughed because he probably knew, like, yeah, it's over. It really is over now. Maybe mocking Jimmy, but also probably part mocking himself. Maybe it is a good thing that he was only able to sit back and watch everything. Maybe that was his ultimate karma, being backstabbed like 10 times hard, because he could have stopped it, but he didn't, because apparently camaraderie topped everything. It's really hard saying that because it's like Curly and Jimmy are in a competition for who's the worst character in the game. Of course, Jimmy is by far the worst, but then you think about how all of this could have been avoided if Captain Curly actually did his job as leader when he was leader, and it's just such a headache. But do I think Captain Curly is a bad person like Jimmy? Not really. He's morally dark. I won't even say morally gray, just morally dark. But I also wouldn't say that he's a complete bad person. He tried his best, but his best wasn't good enough because he pretty much let people step all over him until the very end. He didn't deserve Jimmy taking out his anger on him. Hearing the noises of his struggle as Jimmy would force feed him pills and just sometimes straight up abuse him altogether was frightening. And if you don't know what I mean, here's the clip, but again, it's very graphic despite nothing being shown. It's almost funny because the first thing you have to do after being taken out of Curly's perspective when the ship was crashing is to take care of him by giving him pills. And I've seen a lot of people's first reactions that they originally thought that they were doing something good and were trying to make it into a fun situation, only to hear the noises that he was making when Jimmy was feeding him and realizing something was really wrong. It's the second time around where you hear his obvious struggle and go, yup, that's definitely abuse. And just, oh my god, everything down from how the sound design is in this game to how the characters interact with each other and treat the situation. It feels so real. I am so heavy on that sound design part. Like, oh, every time Curly makes any noise, whether it's his whimpering, the sounds he makes when he's swallowing pills, his screams, oh my god, it is maddening how real it sounds. I would love to see this game made into a movie. This and Hotline Miami. The concept is too good to miss. However, I do fear that if it gets made into a movie, a lot of the subtext that was in the original game will get completely removed for the theatrical release, which would make me very upset. So maybe we should just stick to a video game. But regardless, if this video has convinced you enough to check out Mouthwashing for the first time or second time or third time, whatever, please do. And if you have any more theories, please tell me in the comment section. I would love to hear more. I am so in love with this game and I'll try replying to as many comments as I can. I haven't really made videos recently because I haven't been inspired to do much, but this really inspired me to make a video because it's just great. Play Mouthwashing, guys. Anyways, if you enjoyed watching the video, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween!